Health, Pioneers, and Civilization Explained in 7 Principles. I wanted to do this video for quite a while because people asked me, why am I talking about these 3 things together when they seemingly are not even related? People think about health and medicine and healthcare. They might think about startups, venture capital, and pioneers. And they might think about civilization, but they don't think about it in one swoop. And they think these are disconnected, independent dimensions of reality, while I am always bringing them together into my speech. And I thought it's about time that I address that topic and make sense of it all, so everyone can understand what I mean when I bring them together. So let's start with these 7 principles. Number 1, and that is a very important one before we get into the other 6. My insights into the world are derived from the attempt to re-engineer it. That is an important first principle because it means that this is not a theoretic consideration that I just came up with while I'm sitting around in a coffee shop or something, but this is something, everything you will hear today in this video is derived from my active re-engineering attempts as an entrepreneur, as an investor, as an advisor, and as someone who gets a lot of good and bad advice from others. And this is all coming from, of course, my activities over the last, 15 years in, I2X and QuantGene and some other endeavors. Mostly in the healthcare space, in genomics, in deep tech. We built labs. We did a lot of things in the pandemic with COVID testing. We did a lot of venture capital and, complex quantitative technologies, how to design better startup portfolios. And I was exposed to a ton of people, good people and bad people. And we try to do big things in healthcare. We are still doing these things. And we have failed a lot. We have succeeded a little bit. And all of that are the insights that guide me in these 7 principles. So I just wanted you to understand that before we go into the other 6, that this is not random. It is based on real-world experience. It is based on things that I have seen and touched and things that we tried to shape and change where we partially succeeded and partially got a lot of feedback why we didn't succeed. Okay, principle number 2, let's jump into health. What is health and what's the problem? So health in general means that you're alive and healthy and happy. And once your health starts to deteriorate, it ends in the worst case with death. And ultimately is represented by our health span, which means how long do you live a healthy life? And we hear about all these problems. You hear about cancer, you hear about neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer, Parkinson's, and so on. You hear about diabetes, you hear about the metabolic disease, pandemic, epidemic, and you hear, of course, about cardiovascular deaths that lead the charts. All of these things sound very complicated, but ultimately, after digging deep into the mechanics medically, economically, and healthcare system-wise of these diseases, what I realized is that 90% of all health problems originate from only 2 causes. And with health problems, I mean both your personal health problems of declining health, deterioration, and death, and the systemic problems of $4 trillion a year spent on healthcare with declining performance behind it, declining life expectancy in the United States. Terrible metrics. And these 2 causes that cause all that disaster across the board, across all these disease categories, are lifestyle, specifically nutrition, exercise, and community, and medical intelligence, or the lack thereof. The fact that our doctors, our surgeons, our oncologists, our cardiologists are not up to date when it comes to medical knowledge. And they are extremely not up to date when it comes to medical intelligence per patient. When it comes to personalized medicine and high resolution understanding of chronic disease, of the emergence and ontogenesis of chronic disease, and how we can intercept it early, or if it's late, how we bring the full power of precision medicine to bear. All of that is not happening, and these 2 problems, that we fail on intervening in lifestyle across the board in the population, even though we know exactly what to do. And second, that we have a complete lack of medical intelligence in our healthcare system when it comes to personalized precision medicine. These are the causes of death and destruction that we can address and have to address. Underlying these two causes and the whole paradigm in medicine that we are not making the progress anymore that we used to make in the last 100 years. Why are we not making this progress anymore? And why are these two causes now so prevalent and killing millions and millions of people every year? The reason for that is because medicine and the medical problem has shifted from previously traumatic injury as main cause of death, and of course infectious diseases as main cause of death. When you look at the late 1800s, when modern medicine was invented, in Berlin and Paris and many European capitals, they fought these two original causes of death. And the two original causes of death were infectious diseases and traumatic injury. Now they did a very good job. They increased life expectancy from 40 years to roughly 76, 78 years, nearly doubled it over the last 100 years, 150 years. But because medicine did such a great job in addressing these underlying original two causes of death and morbidity, now we are in a new world where that has gone away. Like no one really dies anymore of infectious diseases, no significant number of people. Same with traumatic injury. But the cause of death has shifted into chronic diseases, specifically the four horsemen: cancer, cardiovascular, neurodegenerative diseases, and of course metabolic. And that is the reason these two new causes, the lifestyle cause and the lack of high resolution medical intelligence, are now the biggest killers. The four horsemen of chronic disease are to blame. Now, the third principle. We know how to solve all these problems. Let me repeat this and be super clear. We know exactly how to solve these problems. Let me start with cause number one. NEC, nutrition, exercise, and community. The lifestyle killers. We know that if people would eat the right stuff, if they would do a little bit more fasting, if they would get out of insulin resistance, you would dramatically cut cancer, cardiovascular, and neurodegenerative diseases. If you also add the community aspect and pull people out of their isolated lives, we know that isolation and loneliness is a bigger killer than smoking at this point. So that needs to happen. We know what to do. We know how this works. And we know how to figure out the rest we don't know. Early detection. Totally low-hanging fruit. Make sure everyone gets detected early across these four categories of chronic diseases. Is that hard? No, it's not hard. It's very easy. We know exactly how to do it. There are healthcare economics behind it that are complex. But medically, the tools we need, A1C tests, colonoscopies, full body MRIs, liquid biopsies, known stuff. It's just about doing it and getting it effective. When it comes to medical intelligence, we know that the centerpiece of medical intelligence is a new form of distributed genomics. Getting high-tech precision genomics into the hands of every hospital and every physician is a very, very clear approach to fundamentally boost our medical intelligence across the board, all disease categories, research, cures, and treatments. Merging that genomics data with electronic medical records and reformatting this whole stuff so it becomes actually usable. It's crystal clear what needs to be done. And all that would lead to current and new cures, current cures that would be finally actually deployed with patients, and new cures we could easily develop from that. It's the 100% merge that I also want to address. All these things are not even separate things. Prevention and early detection also reach into genomics. Genomics can be predictive for many things you need to do in nutrition, exercise. They might even help socially with community. Genomics also helps with detection, and the new data paradigm of having much higher resolution data on all people that we can generate so cheaply, so easily, is the centerpiece of bringing medical intelligence not just on the tail end when you're sick and diagnosed, but also on the front end when you're still not sick and not diagnosed. That's what I call the 100% merge, why all these things actually should be merged into a new system, a new framework of medicine. And of course, I can talk endlessly about all the details here, but believe me, these problems have been solved conceptually. We can do things about these things. Okay, which leads us to paradigm and principle number 4. We fail to build solutions. Let me be very clear. We don't fail in figuring out what needs to be done and how things work and how things can be solved, including how we can make a lot of money with it. What we fail at is raising the people and putting the people in place and organizing people and capital who can actually make all these things happen. And we see that failure across the board, right? We see it, for example, in metabolic health, and we get later principles why this metabolic health is so important. But I just had a friend at Kaiser Permanente. He's a patient, and he forced his primary care physician to order an A1C test, the most basic test, because he did actually, technically he was qualified to get one under Kaiser guidelines because he's Asian and there are different guidelines for that, but they missed it and thought he's not qualified. So he pushed for it anyway, got his A1C test, got a 6.0. So he was pre-diabetic and they didn't even take any action on it, right? Kaiser, he asked his Kaiser, does it mean anything? Do you see anything here? And he's like, no, not really. Then he asks again, he's like, oh yeah, sure, it's pre-diabetic, like change your diet. No other guidance, nothing. And I told him, dude, you have to take action here. This is ridiculous. So I actually helped him and he's fine. Changed his diet, a little more exercise. I put him on a fasting regime. Everything's fine now. But he would completely have fallen through the cracks. And he's not the only one. There are tens and tens of millions of Americans who are pre-diabetic where no action is being taken. Mind-boggling. They will become diabetic and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to the healthcare system and will have a terrible life as patients when it's so easy to change that. It's so easy, but no one does anything. Cancer screenings are the next thing, where we fail to implement the most basic solutions. So America, Europe, highly developed economies and countries, they can't get their population screened. Like cancer screening adherence, when you take all the cancer screening guidelines together, are horrible, right? Are horrible. There is a statistic that only 6% of Americans actually get all the preventative screenings that they are by guideline recommended to get. 6%. I mean, crazy. Okay, so we can't organize that. We can't recognize when someone is late for something, even though it's crystal clear. We built a solution for that. In 6 months, we had a solution, a medical intelligence system. We just have to roll it out better. But, it's so easy to build these things and do something about it. Genomics. You would think genomics, one of the largest, fastest growing segments in healthcare and biotech, with obviously game-changing effects on cancer patients, in preventative care and primary care and OBGYN, on all kinds of patients, with huge effects on neurodegenerative prevention, on cardiovascular prevention. How can you not make this work? And then you look at the genomics industry. Nearly every single company is deep in the red, highly unprofitable, grows super fast revenues, loses money left and right because these guys cannot figure out how to build a profitable company in the fastest growing biotech segment of all. Why? Well, you look at the details, because they're morons. They're stupid. They're wasting money. They got overfunded by VCs and now wasted left and right, and they can't get the corner. So we are working there on a distributed genomics infrastructure where we dramatically cut OpEx and sales and marketing costs structurally in the genomics industry. And we'll get this done. And this will unlock an enormous storm of innovation once we get this done. Distributed genomics, get genomics inside the hospitals, cut out all the sales and marketing and commercialization costs, and fix the structural unprofitability of the industry. Data and intelligence, another big failure that is hard to wrap your head around. So maybe you've heard of electronic medical records. When it comes to delivering care and cures to patients, it's very important to understand what the patient is all about. Do you have the data on this patient, family history, disease history, medication, and of course genomics, to make the right decisions in cancer care, for example, but also in neurodegenerative, also in cardiovascular, and of course in metabolic. Then you look at what's happening in these hospital systems in America. In Germany it's a little better, but in America. It's a disaster. They talk about electronic medical records, and there are all kinds of problems across the board. For example, unstructured and structured data, right? The physician notes are not in sync with the structured data. So a physician types something in, yeah, I gave them this medication here and there, and then they put in the structured data, click on all the medications the patient gets. In 90% of cases, there is an inconsistency between structured data, what was structurally put into the system, which is actually read out, and the custom notes. So what does it mean? You think the patient gets these medications, but it's not true because the doc wrote different medications in here. No one knows because no one reads the notes. Everything is automated on this side. Total disaster. Genomics are not even integrated, right? We don't even have genomic data in the electronic medical records, at least not in an accessible way, and definitely not the deep end of the genomics data. So the total incapability of turning electronic medical records into usable data has led to all these problems. And how do you solve that problem? I mean, I don't even know how to formulate that. It's so trivial. You just fix it. You go in, restructure the data, make it readable. I mean, anyone at Facebook or Google or Amazon or Walmart, for that matter, or Tesla, does that all day long in a second. Why are we not doing it? Well, that's a good question. And all that means that precision cures and precision cure research is not being done anywhere close at what would be possible today if we would just do the basic stuff. So now, to that principle, we fail to build solutions. People say, well, it's very complicated. The healthcare system has an incentive problem because you have these payers and the providers and the patients and the physicians. And they're all not on the same page. So the people who buy healthcare are not the people who receive healthcare because it's insurance plans and therefore everything is messed up. Okay. When we talk about innovation, that's like saying NASA sucks because they have the wrong incentives and that's why they could never invent a real rocket that actually self-lands and stuff. Well, yeah, that's true. But then Elon comes along and builds SpaceX. And why? Because Elon has the right incentive. If Elon succeeds, he makes a lot of money. Trillions of dollars he's going to make with this. These meta-incentives of innovation capitalism and pioneer capitalism are fully in place in healthcare. No one stops you to create a payvider, for example, like an integrated payer and provider system. No one stops you from getting, distributed genomics into hospitals. You will make billions, tens of billions. There's no problem. You just have to do it. But the problem is the culture in healthcare, that this is not a job. This is a mission. You need to be a pioneer. You need to be comfortable with risk and you need to be excited in reengineering the future. You will get billions or trillions of dollars if you do it. We have the right incentives. The incentives are not wrong in healthcare. The meta incentives. Because if you fix that stuff, you're going to get so rich, you're going to get richer than Elon. Not just one person, like a lot of people could get richer than anyone else. That's a great incentive. That's the incentive that has always worked. But it's still not getting done because these people don't show up in healthcare for some reason. What we need in healthcare to not fail anymore to build solutions are people who are not just doing a job, but who are true reality engineers, who envision and imagine a better healthcare system and start getting into the weeds and building that stuff. Imagine, build, learn, repeat, and persist. The engineering cycle, with that all great things in history have been built, with that all great things are being built right now in other industries. Look at NVIDIA, look at AI, look at Tesla, look at SpaceX, look at Amazon. Everyone does it outside healthcare. Why not in healthcare? That is the big question. Which brings me to principle number 5. And you see now why I call it health pioneers. And soon you will see why I call it civilization. To engineer reality, we need pioneers. And we don't have enough pioneers in healthcare. Look at the fails. All these fails I mentioned. And what this is all about is that in healthcare we have too many employees and too little entrepreneurs and pioneers. And in healthcare you need not just entrepreneurs, you need true pioneers who imagine a new world, a new future, who think beyond just tactical merchant entrepreneurs who just see an opportunity to make a little bit of money. That's not how it works. You need to structurally think through the healthcare system. You need to re-engineer the fundamental structures of healthcare. It's not super hard, but it's harder than just being an entrepreneur who sees an opportunity, jumps on it, and makes a little bit of money. That's not how you can disrupt healthcare. You need to structurally rethink how the economics and the medicine and the technology of healthcare is being brought together in new systems that dramatically cut costs, dramatically create efficiencies. And we know how to do it, to my previous points, but it requires a specific type of person to do that. These people are the pioneers. Now, when it comes to what is a pioneer, right, that's a long story, and I will have a separate video on the 7 principles of pioneers, or 7 pioneer principles. But I can tell you some stories from my own experience doing these things. And one of the experiences I had, or not one, I had it again and again. I feel like I'm this guy, like in the Wild West. You're at the frontier, you get there, there's a nice little forest, and there's a nice little creek, and a little lawn, like meadows and stuff. And you get there with your little plant wagons, and there's nothing. You know what? That's what healthcare is, in my opinion. Because the healthcare system is so messed up and so convoluted and so ridiculous that in a way, there's nothing. In a way, we are pioneers who come to an empty meadow and creek and forest. We can rebuild the whole thing now. Not from scratch, but in very fundamental ways. Because we have this confluence of amazing technologies that suddenly allow us to do things that are crazy. Cloud, AI, genomics. You can do crazy things. And so we are like these pioneers who come to the meadow and the creek and the forest, and there's nothing. And there's like 100 people. And they want to build a little pioneer town. So what do? They say like, well, we need a bridge across the creek. So you guys, you 5, build the bridge. And you other 5 build the road. And then they build the bridge. But here's the thing. You would think, well, how will you build a bridge? In healthcare, they're going to say, well, I'm not a bridge builder. I'm not a bridge builder. I'm not like someone who can build little pillars for the bridge or columns. I was trained to refine little wood pieces, right? Like, dude, we don't need that here. We need someone who thinks there's a creek. We need to build a bridge. Can you just chop some wood and build a bridge? And if you don't know how to do it, this is not rocket science. Just come up with it. And then you need people who do that, who understand, well, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to build a bridge. There's some forest. Here's my axe. Like, chop it and build a bridge. Come up with it. Like, wing it. Figure it out. What you don't need is people like, well, I wasn't trained on that. I was not trained to figure out how to build, genomics labs into hospitals. I was trained to validate, machines in labs. It's like, bro, then use your brain. If you know how to validate equipment in a lab, use your brain a little bit more and figure out how to build a lab into a hospital. Because if everyone just does exactly only what he was trained for, you can never build anything new, because whatever is new, no one was ever trained for. I mean, I don't have to elaborate that more, but... So the people build the bridge, but then they are done with the bridge, and then they have to build a saloon. Because you need a saloon, you get drunk to celebrate your bridge. Now, if the bridge builders, maybe they have learned to build a bridge, and maybe they got out of that little narrow thing, but now they have to build a saloon, because you don't have too many people, so now they have to build a saloon. Now, I don't want to see that happening all over again. And they say, we never built a saloon. It's like, okay, at some point you have to understand. You're a pioneer. Just build the stuff we need. Just understand what we need and start imagining how you would build it. Start building it. Learn why it doesn't work. Reimagine how you would build it. Try again. Learn again. And if you persist in doing that and repeat that cycle, this reality engineering cycle, anyone can build anything. You just have to imagine, build, learn, and repeat by reimagining, rebuilding, and relearning. And then you have to persist until you're done. And there will be failure, failure, failure until there is not. That is the mindset of a pioneer. And these people, with the persistence, the ability to imagine, build, learn, and repeat, can restructure healthcare from scratch in no time if we had enough. And that paradigm is true for the team members in these startups and companies. We have to found around these blueprints we already know in preventative care and all over the place. And they need to be true. This paradigm needs to be true for investors, because the investors also need to be pioneers, right? They also need to understand the whole process and not be greedy little merchants. They need to be people who are long-term greedy and who are long-term greedy builders, not short-term greedy merchants who just want to do a little trade. The right investors who are truly pioneers, the right partners in larger healthcare structures, and even in corporate America, you have these people, just not too many, but you have to find them, and we need more of them, who say, well, we might be a large company, but we are still up for building something great. And all that then ends in the pioneer culture, right? In a culture that makes that all clear, draws the vision of the future, and makes people imagine, build, learn, repeat, and persist. Principle number 6. More pioneers are the key lever to saving more lives. Okay, so in the previous principle 5, it's already becoming clear we need the pioneers. Now what that means here, it goes one step further. If it's true that all this innovation is driven by the pioneers, and if it's true we don't have enough pioneers, then getting more pioneers into healthcare is the absolute key lever to saving more lives. Now, how do you do that? How do you activate and attract the pioneers into healthcare? That is the trillion-dollar question that we have to answer. That is extremely important. If you care about human life and saving your own life and saving the lives of your family and your friends, and making sure no one dies prematurely, and ideally no one dies anytime soon of anything, we have everything it takes to do that, but we need to think from scratch how we get these resources together. And when it comes to the pioneers and activating them, there's one central concept that I call the network. Because here's the thing. If you have pioneering potential as someone and you're sitting somewhere isolated, maybe you're already in healthcare, but no one talks to you and everyone around you is not a pioneer and bashes you and is against all that stuff and say, just stay in your lane, do what you were trained for, don't do these things. What is the one thing that would activate that person? What is the one thing that could activate all the sleeping pioneer material in healthcare? And what would activate and draw all the potential pioneers outside healthcare into healthcare? It is what I call the network. And that network is the network of pioneers. And that network, right now, doesn't formally exist. That's the problem. What needs to happen is that the people who have it in them, the potential, and the people who already have it in them and have activated it maybe outside healthcare, get together. That there's a culture being created. A pioneer culture that is operationalized through a network. And that network is a network of culture and media. That's, by the way, what I'm doing right now. I hope that one of you listens to that and thinks, you know what, I got inspired here, we should do more. And now then uses this channel or whatever other place so we can get together and exchange ideas. Because what I learned as an investor and as an entrepreneur in this space is the scarcest good in healthcare innovation is not capital, it's not ideas, it's not technology, it is pioneers. If I had more pioneers, I single-handedly could transform all of healthcare in a decade. There are other people who could do it, not just me. But all of us have one problem. We need more pioneers. We need people we can work with who understand how to build the bridge, who understand how to build the saloon, who don't say, oh, I was trained on this and that, but not on this and that. I don't care what you're trained for. You should be trained to engineer reality. And if you're not trained in that, train yourself. Or we help you get trained. Don't get trained on anything else. Get trained on engineering reality, and then you don't have all these problems anymore because you go in and say, well, if you need distributed genomics in all hospital systems in the world, that's not that hard. We know how to do that. If you need to detect all diseases early stage, and I give you a roster of existing diagnostics, most of them very cheap, that people need annually to get screened. And I give you a roster of more advanced systems that only wealthier people can afford right now, but if more of them afford it, they become cheaper and everyone can afford it. So build a brand and a system for wealthier people to get super precision screenings annually, create the evidence, and then trickle it down to everyone. That is very doable. Just create a website, a landing page, conversion, charge people some money, make them pay monthly, figure all the little details out that are not rocket science. Just don't stop, just do it. Be an entrepreneur, be a pioneer. And the good news is, once you have the pioneers, and I have seen it, once you have the pioneers, once you have a team, I'm talking from executive all the way to junior, a team that has that pioneering spirit of building bridges and saloons, instead of just saying, no, I was only trained in polishing a little piece of wood. Once you have these pioneers, you get into the situation that is the closest to magic humans can ever get. Because people always say technology is the closest to magic we can get today. And I disagree. It's fine. An iPhone, you type something in or Google and then you see something, it's very magic. You know what's much more magic? If you have a team that can envision the future and transform reality so this future comes into being. That is more than magic. That's divine. And I'm a big fan of it. And I want more of it. And I want it in healthcare first. Because it is the key lever of everything. So now you know why I'm so obsessed with health and with pioneers. Because ultimately, to make people healthy and build the new healthcare system, all we need is pioneers. We have everything else. We have the blueprints, we have the technology, we have the capital. We just need the pioneers. And then unbelievable things are gonna happen. We're gonna extend the healthy human lifespan by 10 years within a decade. And believe me, once we have that in place, once we have a system and a network of pioneers in place in healthcare, we are going to extend the healthy human lifespan a decade within every decade. And you do the math what that means. We can absolutely transform medicine. We can defeat cancer. We can defeat neurodegenerative diseases. No one has to get Alzheimer's anymore. No one has to get diabetes and metabolic diseases anymore. No one has to die of a heart attack anymore. All this can be gone within 20 years. We just have to start building the obvious. And we need to have the pioneers in there. So the 7th principle guides us into the final concept, civilization. And my thesis is very clear, that solving health prototypes the pioneer civilization. Because what happens if we start with the most important of all human interests, the health and life of people, your health and your life, the health and life of your loved ones. If we start there, apply the pioneer principles, and solve amazing things. If we start there and show that reality can be re-engineered, that the future can be systematically engineered, in what matters most to people, their own lives and their own health. And we know already everything. We just need the pioneers. What happens if we can do that? Well, life and the economy will be amazing. But much more important than that, people will understand something much, much grander than even life itself. They will understand that the pioneers are truly the key lever of everything. And they will understand that a society that maximizes their share of pioneers becomes a pioneer society. And they will understand that a pioneer society that has maximized its share of pioneers becomes completely invincible. It becomes completely limitless because it organizes and redesigns its own most valuable assets, its people, in a way where they start to become reality engineers, not at a random low percentage number of the population, but at large, where the engineering of progress and the future becomes a thing, where civilization itself is structured around the ultimate goal, which is human progress. And all of that becomes possible by starting and demonstrating the paradigm and the principles of the pioneers and the principles of progress with one topic. And if you have to choose one topic, we better choose the most important one. The most important one is health. And now you know why I am so convinced that health, pioneers, and civilization are the key lever to ignite a future we can hardly imagine. A future and then we solve all human problems quickly. And that we build a civilization so great we can't even remotely imagine it today. And that's the purpose of my channel, what I'm publishing here. And that's why I hope you are engaged with me and leave me your comments and build the network with me. And I will publish some more things to add more color to these concepts. And I hope you enjoy it. And I hope together we build a pioneer civilization.